Here at the Fake Britain House, we'll reveal the fakes that are flooding the market, conning people like you and me, and making money for the criminals. We'll investigate the fraudsters who are selling us something that isn't real and could be dangerous, and will help you avoid falling for a fake. Coming up, the fake video game merchandise that's changed one boy's life forever.
We were warned that he would probably come out blind in that eye.
Is it a toy? Is it not a toy? Either way, it isn't safe.
UK authorities battle the trade in fake cigarettes.
It's going to be millions, if not hundreds of millions.
The fake climbing equipment putting lives at risk.
That's so bad at lost words.
And the fake whiskies trying to fool collectors.
Somebody who's gone to an awful lot of trouble, this is a good fake.
Video games are a multi-billion-pound business. They make more money than Hollywood movies. And one of the most successful is Assassin's Creed, where a character in the game uses one of these. It's a gauntlet with a hidden weapon. And as we've discovered, this one is extremely dangerous. Comic-Con in Liverpool. Here, 23,000 gamers and comic fans have come to indulge their passion for some of the world's most popular fantasy, computer games and science fiction series. It's an international industry worth billions of pounds with millions of fans, old and young. Which has also made it an attractive target for the fakers. But for one young boy in Wiltshire,
bye Mum, we'll be back in half an hour.
A fake fantasy product nearly lost him more than just his pocket money.
Your life can change in a moment. Our lives changed so dramatically and so horrifically just from a fake product we didn't even know was fake is astounding to me.
When Joel Perry was 13, he received some vouchers for his birthday. He wanted to use them to indulge his passion for video games.
Well, it all started when I first got this game, Assassin's Creed 3. It was really cool. It was like, yeah, loved it. Played it for a long time.
Assassin's Creed is a computer game franchise following the adventures of an ancient order of assassins as they battle their arch rivals, the Knights Templar. The games are part of a franchise worth hundreds of millions of pounds, including spin-offs in books, merchandise and toys, one of which Joel was keen to purchase.
I found this Assassin's Creed Gauntlet on there, and that's the main weapon on the game.
Licensed by games maker Ubisoft, Joel was desperate to buy the official life-size Gauntlet with its hidden blade weapon. But as it was classed as a collectible for adults rather than a kid's toy, he needed his mum Sarah's approval first.
I checked it. I did say that it was a genuine product. I sort of was concerned at first by the look of it, but we had a chat and I checked it had a safety catch described on there. But I kind of thought he's getting older now and there's a point with a parent where you have to start to let go a little bit.
Joel bought the Gauntlet online from a third-party seller on Amazon. Shipped from China, it arrived a few weeks later.
I wasn't any suspicions, it was just like a normal box. When I opened it, it looked, yeah, perfect, it was awesome.
We actually sat down together, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And obviously I was sort of a little bit concerned about how it worked and everything.
It's worn on the wrist, and a secret skull button releases the plastic blade, but only if the safety catch is turned off.
We looked where the safety was, where the button, looked at the buttons and everything, and I said to Joel, you must be very careful, you must always have the safety catch on.
And Joel did. Until one day, a few months after he'd received it, Joel was getting ready to go to his dad's house and needed to give his father a ring.
Picked up my phone, I had the thing strapped around my wrist. As I pulled up, I don't know how I did it because I had the safety catch on, but I think I must have nudged the bottom of my hand and it sprang up into my eye.
And when I turned around, he was on the floor. And I just sort of said, oh, what are you doing down there? He went, come on, get up, sort of being silly. And he was just really dazed and he had his hand up to his face, didn't know what was going on. And I said, "Oh, are you okay?" He was just saying, my eye. And his eye was literally, it was spraying tears like a shower.
Joel's dad rushed him into hospital.
At sort of about 12 o'clock at night, Joel's dad phoned and said, he's got to have an emergency operation in the morning. It's really, really not good. We were warned that he would probably come out blind in that eye.
In fact, despite the safety catch being on, the mechanism had sprung without warning and sent the blade into Joel's eye. As eye consultant Richard Ancliffe explains.
He put the dagger through the clear window at the front of the eye, that we call the cornea. I can show you on the model here. So he penetrated his eye through this clear window. These sort of injuries, or these type of injuries, are very unpredictable in that until you actually start doing an operation, you don't know exactly what you're going to find.
Luckily for Joel, the skill of the surgeon saved his sight.
Joel was extremely lucky in getting away with what he ended up with. He was millimetres away from having a much, much more serious problem.
Joel was left with 6 stitches in his eye. He began a process of months of operations and recuperation.
That was like the worst 3 months of my life, because he was just in so much pain all the time and I couldn't help him.
Meanwhile, concerned at what had gone wrong with her product, Sarah sent it off to Wiltshire Trading Standards. Yvonne Bennett is the Consumer Protection Manager.
We purchased one of these items ourselves. We sent the item off to a test house because we were concerned about its safety. The analyst applied some tests to the product to find out the force that was needed to cause the blade to shoot out, the force that was needed on the safety lock, the force that was needed to depress the trigger, and he came to the conclusion that in both cases very little force was required. It was so easily done. At the bottom here there is a safety lock which is so flimsy that even by brushing it against your clothing that could move. This skull-like thing on top here is a trigger which, if you just press it, will cause the blade to shoot out.
And there's a reason it fails safety standards. Makers Ubisoft say they believe Joel's collectible Assassin's Creed blade is a fake. For Yvonne's trained eye, there are ways to spot it.
The information on the packaging is confusing. We have a warning here: choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years. We also have a symbol here, 0 to 3 years. But then we have another age, which is 17 plus. We also see here the words "not a toy" and "not for use by children." The CE mark is a worry, because what that means is that this item complies with the EC Directive on Toys for children under 14 years of age. This is all quite suspicious. If it's not a toy, it should not have that CE mark. Is it a toy? Is it not a toy? Either way, it isn't safe.
Back at Comic-Con, and Luis Ferreira's stall is in full swing. He runs Gaming Merchandise UK, making a living from selling the genuine products.
We've got the two gauntlets here. One is an official one from Ubisoft. The other one here is the counterfeit blade. It's made with a very cheap PVC. It's quite stiff to hold. I'm surprised how poor it really sort of looks. The official one has a little bit more quality in terms of the feel and the look. You can see there's more detail, and the detail's more defined on the blade. The official one has a safety catch. The blade will not move. Also, it's very blunt. The counterfeit item, the safety catch, there's what you might call a safety catch. It's gone off. When I touch the blade, that's sharp. This fake is it's dangerous.
Luis says fakes like Joel's worry everybody in the industry.
We have to sort of protect our industry. You know, it's very important to us that we do everything we can to try and call out, you know, counterfeit products with it.
Since Joel's accident, Trading Standards worked with Amazon to have the fake products removed from sale, and the seller is no longer active. They also had a Europe-wide warning about it issued. It's come too late to help Joel. This morning, he and his mum have come to the Royal United Hospitals Bath to find out what the long-term prognosis is for his eyesight.
popped in on the rest there. Well, that's doing very well. There has been some permanent damage to the pupil. You still have some scarring there, which is likely to remain much the same as it is now. But the skin on the surface of the cornea has completely healed over.
Right.
Thank you for coming in today.
It's been amazing.
Thank you.
I feel over the moon. Aside from the news that Joel's pupil is kind of as good as it will get, just so positive.
This is one saga at least that does have a happy ending. As well as being the UK's busiest airport, London's Heathrow is also its most important air freight hub, processing over 1.5 million metric tonnes of cargo a year. That means it's where the smugglers attempt to get many of their illegal and fake products into the UK. Set up to stop them are the men and women of the UK's border force. Today, officers Glenn and Abhijit have just received a message from the other side of the airport.
Our colleagues just given us a call to a transit shed. They've had a large find of tobacco pouches, about 2 tonnes worth.
Arriving, colleague Sean is sorting through the find.
That's got amber leaf in it. That's got Golden Virginia in it.
Nearly 2 tonnes of fake tobacco-related material.
This one's going to London.
How many shipments are there?
There's 25 boxes in total for this one. Today we selected a consignment coming out of China, weighing just over 2 tonnes. We've detained 70 boxes which contain counterfeit hand-rolling tobacco pouches and the paraphernalia that goes with that.
The consignment set alarm bells ringing because of inconsistencies in its paperwork. Inside the boxes are the complete kits needed to set up your own fake tobacco factory.
Inside the Hessian bag are the outer plastic casings for the tobacco pouches. The actual pouch will fit inside there, and then they'll heat seal that. These are the holographic labels with the Golden Virginia hologram on them, which they use to try and prove that they're genuine. Also, rolls of Golden Virginia tobacco pouches, and each roll contains approximately 50 counterfeit pouches, so that's 50 grams per pouch of tobacco when it comes in. In one of the other boxes, they've also produced the fiscal seals as well, which state that the EU tax duty has been paid on it, or UK tax and duties paid on it. They actually have a price on as well at €7.20, just giving it a little more authenticity when they sell it.
But there's one crucial ingredient missing, the tobacco itself. Sean believes that would come in separately by ship.
We've come across these quite a lot. This will go to an organised crime syndicate. They will fill it with tobacco, poor quality tobacco. It will be mixed with dust, wood chippings, scrapings off the floor, so they'll sell it cheaper than normal shops sell tobacco. It's going to be millions, and it will be tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions. Each pouch, 50 grams of tobacco's approximately £10. So you've got £500 there, just in one roll. This is organised crime, and this will make a huge dent into their operation.
This seizure will be impounded and eventually destroyed. But what happens to the fake tobacco products that do manage to slip through the net? Later, we're with Northamptonshire Trading Standards as they find out.
So those are counterfeit, so there's certainly a few hundred packets in there. Good for you, here we go.
Many of us like a drop of this stuff, but it doesn't come cheap. A bottle of single malt will set you back about £30. But rare and vintage whiskies can be worth hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. And that's why some people are faking it. They're trying every trick in the book to cash in on collectible whiskies. Matthias Auctioneers in Glasgow.
Bid on this starts me at the low estimate at £80, Swiss coming in at 85.
Today, they're hosting a sale of rare and collectible whiskies.
sold for £550. £300 on this one. Who's coming in for £320? That's £480. £500 back of me looking for £5.
Collectors have gathered from across Scotland and beyond to purchase sought-after bottles.
£280.
But one item meant to go under the hammer is causing a bit of a stir. Auctioneer Laurie Black suspects it may be a fake.
This bottle here purports to be a 20-year-old single cask Little Mill. As soon as it came in, we weren't too sure about it. It just didn't match up. There were a few things that kind of set alarm bells ringing. Some labels not quite right, the seal's not quite right.
Bottles of Little Mill are highly sought after because the maker is what's known as a ghost distillery, one that no longer exists. The Dunbartonshire-based Little Mill distillery closed in the late 90s, with the buildings burning down a few years later. It made any surviving bottles valuable. This one could sell for several £100s if it was real. There's good news for Laurie. On hand to give it the once-over is whiskey dealer, collector and anti-fake campaigner Andy Simpson. If anyone can spot a fake, it's him.
What do you got? So firstly, the capsule's wrong. There's no test strip around there. What you can see is irregularity with the labels. You've got some bleeding of the glue, so you can see glue coming over the edges, and you can also see that the edge of the paper on the label is irregular. It's been cut by what appears to be a Stanley knife. I think we'd say that that certainly looks like a fake. Let's open the thing and check it. We'll test for the level of alcohol and to see if it actually is 43%. If it is different at all, then that will confirm beyond doubt that it is a fake.
The label claims the whiskey is 43% alcohol by volume. Andy has a portable alcohol meter to see whether that's true.
Test out. 39.55%. So it doesn't match what's on the label, a complete fake.
It's not the best fake we'll ever see. This one, I think, even from a distance.
There's a reason Laurie and Andy are on the lookout for fakes like the Little Mill. In recent years, the market for Scotch whisky has boomed, with buyers in the UK and further afield snapping up vast amounts of Scotland's most famous product. But that success has also attracted the fakers. And auctions like this are having to keep their wits about them.
Fakes are certainly increasing. We're seeing fakes increasing throughout the whole market, and it's not just top-end whiskies that we're seeing fakes, so your £3,000 and £4,000 bottles of Macallan. We're seeing fakes right across the spectrum of prices. So starting at £50, £60, £70 bottles, we're seeing fakes.
To demonstrate the problem, Andy takes us to Edinburgh and the vault of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. He's going to show us how the fakers are doing it. One common scam is just to refill the bottles.
Take these two bottles of Glenmorangie. One is genuine, one is 100% fake. So the bottles are authentic, the labels are authentic, even the capsules and the stoppers are authentic product. It's so easy for criminals to simply pop them off, empty the contents, drink the contents, and then fill them with something else. And the capsule can be quite easily replaced. This is simply filled with a cheap blend, and this is the genuine product. So while these aren't worth a fortune, this is still £100 worth of Scotch. This is worthless as a fake.
Sometimes the unsuspecting buyer isn't getting whiskey at all. Andy shows us how a basic food additive can perform spirit alchemy.
We have some colouring, some water, and it's a very simple thing to do. Fairly instantly, you can see that we've gone from water to whiskey.
We've seen the fakes, and we've seen how the fakers do it. Later, how one woman's intuition uncovered whiskey fakery on an industrial scale.
There was wax, corks, bottles, everything you could possibly need to make your own fakes from scratch.
Earlier, we saw how the UK's border force is battling the tide of fake tobacco products smugglers are trying to sneak through our borders. It's been estimated that 1 in 10 cigarettes now smoked in the UK is counterfeit or illegal in some way. The problem for the authorities backing the trade is how sophisticated the fakers' operations are. That's something Northamptonshire's trading standards have seen for themselves.
This is a continuation of our operation into reducing the supply of cigarettes in Northamptonshire.
They're about to raid a number of shops they suspect of selling fake and illegal cigarettes. Andy Langford is heading up the operation.
This morning we're looking for tobacco that could be foreign labelled or counterfeit. All of these shops have sold before.
The team set off. Andy says the tactics used by the fake tobacco distributors have changed in the face of the authorities' crackdown. Instead of delivering large amounts of fake and illegal cigarettes to shops, the gangs now make smaller deliveries, but more regularly, which makes them easier to hide.
These people are organised, these aren't just people doing it as a sort of one-off, and so their hides have got more sophisticated. It's not unusual to find purpose-built hides with electromagnets, with panels sliding up and down on walls without revealing cigarettes hidden inside.
The team get to work.
Trading standards, looking for tobacco products and so on, okay?
And today, they've got a little four-legged help. Stuart Phillips is in charge of sniffer dogs Scamp and Yo-Yo, specially trained to sniff out hidden tobacco.
He'll have a free search initially, and then if I think he's missed anywhere, then I'll task him then to search that area.
Happy. At the first shop, there are no fakes on the premises. And it's the same at the second shop they enter. But just as Andy's getting worried the day might be wasted, Yo-Yo is sent into shop number 3.
Good boy, Yo-Yo. This is a bag of, looks like illicit whites, various cigarettes that shouldn't be sold in this country.
The find is a mixture of counterfeit cigarettes and cheap foreign brands that have avoided UK duty.
So we've got some Winston. As you can see, these health warnings are not in English. Quite an easy find really, not very well hidden, but the dog gets his ball. Good boy, Yo-Yo. Good boy.
It's a small find, but Andy says that's typical of how the trade in fakes now works.
This will just be for the daily supply, but they could store 5,000 bags here, and it's probably easy just to have enough for 2 or 3 hours, and then just keep replenishing it. I think it's about 85 packets and a pound or something like that.
Yo-Yo's earned himself a special police prize.
When we do school visits and things like that, I put the blue light on for the kids love it, don't they?
The team move on. Andy's busy searching a 4th shop when he gets a call.
We had a report. The team went into the other shop that we targeted, and as they were waiting, a car pulled up outside, apparently to deliver some cigarettes. So we're just walking around to the other shop now.
The delivery driver drove off at speed, but the team have held on to the consignment of cigarettes. Like the previous shop, this one seems to be getting regular deliveries of fakes.
This is the delivery that has just been delivered to the shop. So there's quite a substantial quantity there with foreign labelled. Malta Gold there. Richmond, they're probably counterfeit, so those are copies. Probably 1,000 packets there, I'll guess. So that'll retail for them about £5,000 of cigarettes for them there. So that's, they've lost that today. We just happened to be there at the right place at the right time.
Lovely.
The other thing we found are these 2 bags. These are identical to the bags that we've just found in the back of the car. So these will be another surprise, maybe just for yesterday.
At the final shop, Yo-Yo is sent in again. It seems the shop is fake-free, until...
He's standing still. Yo-Yo's indicating there now, looking at me, and he's indicating. He's going up high. Okay, lift him up. Andy, I'm going to come through here a minute. He's indicating this area. I've lifted him up, and as you can see, I'm pretty sure.
Something?
Possibly, yeah. There you go. Brilliant.
This is a purpose-built hide. So they've mocked it up to look like it's the wiring for the building. All it is just a dummy front.
But there's certainly a few hundred packets in there.
Counterfeit Richmond.
Yeah.
Counterfeit Mayfair.
Yeah.
Counterfeit Amberley.
So this is sort of a normal fuse supply.
Most of it's not going to go touching electrics on walls or pulling panels off, but that's how they've built it to keep us, throw us off the scent.
Yeah, no, it's a good find.
Good for you, there we go.
Fest cigarettes, Marble Gold, Richmond will be counterfeit, and I bet the Mayfair are counterfeit as well. Amberleaf hand rolling tobacco. So legitimate, there'd be no reason for them to be stored in a hide like this.
Putting that together and wiring it up is obviously there for the long term.
They've thought about it, haven't they?
That was in front of all that, right in the middle of it all. This is smelling of like a bleach or something, and it's been put in there to put the dogs off. But it doesn't. They could put bleach in there. There's nothing will put the dogs off, basically.
Probably 500-600 packets. The day's finished up very well, really. It's disappointing to Dark Horse, but it's finished off with a really good find from a sophisticated hide, and it makes the whole day worth doing.
It's a good result, but the team know the problem is huge. So, from the country's borders to its high streets, the fight against the tobacco fakers goes on. This might look like a bit of ordinary rope, but it's designed to save someone's life if it's ever put to the test, because it's climbing rope, and it should meet certain technical standards if it's going to do its job properly. But this rope could literally let you down. It's a fake, and you don't need me to tell you how dangerous that could be. The rock face. A place you want to be sure your safety equipment is up to scratch. For rock climbers, it's a matter of life or death. Here in the crags of the Yorkshire Dales, British climbing legend Steve McClure is taking no chances with what he's using.
Your equipment is absolutely everything. There can be absolutely no margin for failure whatsoever. You put your life completely in the hands of your equipment, and if there's any failure whatsoever, then it's terminal.
It's a sentiment that Dan Middleton, technical officer for the British Mountaineering Council, understandably agrees with. So when he was recently sent a damaged crampon through the post, he became interested as to what had gone wrong.
This goes onto your walking boot, stops you from slipping in winter. If you look at this, completely unbranded, there's no marking, safety information or anything on it. The big giveaway here is, if you see how all the points and the metal frame have folded up and just crumpled really. There's no purchase anymore on the back of the crampon, so if you were having to descend from the mountain in bad weather, you wouldn't have any security at all. You could slip. Could be tragic circumstances.
The unbranded crampon had been bought and used by a UK climber who had it crumpled beneath them when climbing. Since 1993, European legislation has meant most climbing equipment must be tested to check it meets EU standards and CE mark to prove it. The crampon has no safety certification at all, meaning it breaks the law, and its claims to be climbing equipment are fake.
Non-certified kit is a really big issue. Some of it's unbranded, some of it even has fake markings and standards labels on it, and you just do not know if it's going to work or not. If you go back over sort of 35, 40 years, stuff would break and bad things would happen, and it just hardly ever happens these days, and new equipment in particular, stuff that's been well maintained, it just hardly ever fails. It's extremely rare, and that's because of the standards and the certification process.
The dangerous crampon got Dan looking at what else might be out there for sale online, and it wasn't long before he found more fakes. Dan found this harness. It originates from Hong Kong, but was being sold on a UK website for £14 and claims to be certified. Certified harnesses would usually retail for between £50 and £100. This one is made by an obscure Chinese brand, but it's the safety label that worries Dan.
This label that's got here, it's claiming that it's been certified by a notified body. That isn't the case. This has actually been faked, so there's no guarantee that this is going to meet the required standards.
We know the label's fake because we checked with the testing facility and they told us they had never tested the item. They did, however, test this one.
This is a genuine harness from a reputable manufacturer, and you see the label superficially looks quite similar. It's actually the same CE mark. This is a genuine one. Quite worrying that this level of faking is now sort of accelerating. It's making it difficult for consumers to work out what's real and what isn't.
Taking Dan's lead, we went online to see what sort of things were for sale. We bought a 15-metre rope on the same website for £21.99. It's advertised as being suitable for both rock climbing and abseiling. We took it and Dan's harness for testing by the University of Leeds Performance Clothing Research Fellow, Mark Taylor. Despite its fake certification, the harness did meet current safety standards.
Cosmetic stitching around these points has been torn, but the load-bearing stitching, the safety critical stuff, that's still good. So it has met all the requirements of the safety standard.
But what about our rope?
This was advertised online as a rope suitable for climbing, rappelling, which is abseiling, rescue, and even parachuting. What we can do is a relatively simple test to determine how strong this rope is. The website it was being sold from said it had a strength of 3 kilonewtons, which is approximately equal to 300 kilograms. We know that isn't really strong enough for a climbing rope. Experience has shown that forces generated in ropes by climbers when they fall can be in excess of 5 kilonewtons or 500 kilograms.
We couldn't find a UK facility capable of carrying out the EU certification test for climbing rope. But this standard static strength test will give a good idea as to the quality of the rope.
It's also advertised as an abseiling rope, for which the strength has to be over 22 kilonewtons. So shall we see how it does? I expect to see this stretch quite a long way before it breaks. We should also hear some creaky noises as things tighten up. I'm getting close now to 1 kilonewton.
Remember, the rope was advertised as strong enough to take 3 kilonewtons of force. Mark would expect at least 5 kilonewtons for a rock climbing rope and 22 kilonewtons if it really meets abseiling standards.
I think this is close to breaking now. There we go. Just under 2.2 kilonewtons. That's so bad I'm lost for words. Abseiling ropes have to have a minimum strength of 22 kilonewtons. At 2.2 kilonewtons, it's not even a tenth of that that's required. This is awful. If somebody was to go rock climbing on an outside crag using this rope and were to take a fall, there's a very serious chance it would just snap in half and they would hit the floor.
Mark's so appalled, he wants to put that failure into context.
What I've got here is a tackle bag, and we have an accessory cord that's sometimes used by climbers to perhaps fasten their chalk bag to their waist, and there is just no way that this should be as strong as anything that's been sold as a climbing rope. Okay, let's start the test. Well, that's broken at just under 3 kilonewtons, so it's quite shocking that this accessory cord is actually stronger.
To understand why it's so bad, Mark delves deeper.
So this is the rope we've just tested. Now if we take a look inside this, we can see that what it's made from is 4 strands of polymer. I've got a piece of certified climbing rope. If we look inside, we can see that rather than 4 strands, there are 10. This cost £1.43 a metre. It's possible to go to a climber's shop and buy this bona fide certified climbers rope for £1.50 a metre. Is a climber's life really worth 7 pence a metre? I think it's safe to say that this climbing rope is fake. It is just not good enough to be sold as a climbing rope.
We showed our test results to Dan.
That's abysmal. That's broken at around 2 kilonewtons. That's incredibly weak. This is just lethal. It actually makes me quite angry. It's, you know, that's really putting people at risk of harm if they use this rope.
Genuine climbing rope should come with certification information taped to each end. Our fake climbing rope didn't. For climbers like Steve McClure, the moral of the story is straightforward.
Buy your equipment from a reputable store using reputable brands that have been around for a long time. There's no point trying to save money, you're putting your life at risk.
Earlier, we saw how the booming market for Scotch whisky is under attack from fakes.
Tests out 39.55%, so it doesn't match what's on the label, a complete fake.
Andy Simpson is a rare whisky collector and dealer. He recently became so concerned by some of the fakes popping up at auctions, he decided to buy a bottle of a 100-year-old whisky valued at £20,000 and set out to prove it was a fake.
We decided to buy a bottle of what was meant to be Laphroaig 1903, and this is a fabulous bottle. The glass of the bottle actually dates to the turn of the century. The capsule does look like it's old, you would expect it to look like that. The label's a good imitation, so this looked really, really genuine. It was a great one to investigate. So we opened it, we nosed it, we sampled it. As soon as we could see the cork, as soon as the cork was exposed, it's a composite cork, and composite corks weren't used when this was bottled. So certainly not this type of cork was used, and it's quite clearly just been snapped in half. So it's an old wine bottle cork. And then we undertook a whole raft of scientific tests on this, so more than 40 different tests. We also decided to carbon date the liquid. The liquid should have itself dated from the turn of the century. So we sent a sample down to Oxford University, to the Radiocarbon Acceleration Unit, and had it carbon tested. And it came back with a 75% probability that the liquid was from 2007 to 2009. So almost 100 years different from 1903 Laphroaig. Somebody has gone to an awful lot of trouble to make this look like an old bottle. This is a good fake.
For Andy, it was one sophisticated fake taken off the market, but he knows there are a lot more out there. Someone else that knows all about the fakers trying to squeeze counterfeits into auctions is Isabel Graham-Ewell. She's the auction director at another whisky auctioneers. She recently came to suspect one of her clients was trying to sell her fakes.
We had a seller sending quite a few bottles to us, and we began noticing very early on that a large proportion of what he was sending was fake. We contacted him. He seemed very surprised about it. He asked us what he should be looking out for. And we went round to his house. He invited us to have a look round because he had a vast collection that he wanted to show us. And what we saw when we visited his house was extraordinary. He had one of the biggest collections of fine spirits we've ever seen. Some great rarities. And gradually, as we were looking around, we started noticing, wait a minute, the capsule on that doesn't look quite as we'd expect it. That one's got wax and it should have a screw cap.
Convinced it wasn't right, Isabel called the police.
The police went and raided his home. We went along and helped out with identifying the fakes. We'd look under a box somewhere and find inside a little box full of labels. Look in another box, it was full of bottles, all empty. Go in another box, there were all the glass stoppers that you would find in antique bottles. Another one had corks being kept moist. Another box had wax and heating equipment, so that you could put wax on the bottles. Everything you could possibly need to make your own fakes from scratch.
The police arrested the man and the investigation is currently ongoing.
Lot 1002 is a Glendullan Manager's Dram, 18 years old.
But with the popularity of auctions like this only set to grow, everyone agrees it's more important than ever that the fakes are weeded out. Andy's determined that whisky lovers everywhere should enjoy a wee dram and not fall victim to a wee scam.
The challenge we've got, some of these fakes are exceptionally good, and they're getting better. As soon as we identify a fake and we tell people what to look for in a fake, The fakers think, great, well, you've told me the problems with the fakes, so I'm going to go and make them better. So it's a constantly evolving fight with the criminals to try and take fakes out of the market.
That's all from Fake Britain. Goodbye. Here at the Fake Britain House, we'll reveal the fakes that are flooding the market, conning people like you and me, and making money for the criminals. We'll investigate the fraudsters who are selling us something that isn't real and could be dangerous, and will help you avoid falling for a fake. Coming up, the fake video game merchandise that's changed one boy's life forever.
We were warned that he would probably come out blind in that eye.
Is it a toy? Is it not a toy? Either way, it isn't safe.
UK authorities battle the trade in fake cigarettes.
It's going to be millions, if not hundreds of millions.
The fake climbing equipment putting lives at risk.
That's so bad, I lost the words.
And the fake whiskies trying to fool collectors.
Somebody who's gone to an awful lot of trouble, this is a good fake.
Video games are a multi-billion-pound business. They make more money than Hollywood movies. And one of the most successful is Assassin's Creed, where a character in the game uses one of these. It's a gauntlet with a hidden weapon. And as we've discovered, this one is extremely dangerous. Comic-Con in Liverpool. Here, 23,000 gamers and comic fans have come to indulge their passion for some of the world's most popular fantasy, computer games and science fiction series. It's an international industry worth billions of pounds with millions of fans, old and young. Which has also made it an attractive target for the fakers. But for one young boy in Wiltshire,
bye Mum, we'll be back in half an hour.
A fake fantasy product nearly lost him more than just his pocket money.
Your life can change in a moment. Our lives changed so dramatically and so horrifically just from a fake product we didn't even know was fake is astounding to me.
When Joel Perrin was 13, he received some vouchers for his birthday. He wanted to use them to indulge his passion for video games.
Well, it all started when I first got this game, Assassin's Creed 3. It was really cool. It was like, yeah, loved it. Played it for a long time.
Assassin's Creed is a computer game franchise following the adventures of an ancient order of assassins as they battle their arch-rivals, the Knights Templar. The games are part of a franchise worth hundreds of millions of pounds, including spin-offs in books, merchandise and toys, one of which Joel was keen to purchase.
I found this Assassin's Creed Gauntlet on there, and that's the main weapon on the game.
Licensed by games maker Ubisoft, Joel was desperate to buy the official life-size Gauntlet with its hidden blade weapon. But as it was classed as a collectible for adults rather than a kid's toy, he needed his mum Sarah's approval first.
I checked it. I did say that it was a genuine product. I sort of was concerned at first by the look of it, but we had a chat and I checked it had a safety catch described on there, but I kind of thought he's getting older now and there's a point with a parent where you have to start to let go a little bit.
Joel bought the Gauntlet online from a third-party seller on Amazon. Shipped from China, it arrived a few weeks later.
I wasn't any suspicions, it was just like a normal box. When I opened it, it looked, yeah, perfect, it was awesome.
We actually sat down together, didn't we? And obviously I was sort of a little bit concerned about how it worked and everything.
It's worn on the wrist, and a secret skull button releases the plastic blade, but only if the safety catch is turned off.
we looked where the safety was, where the button, looked at the buttons and everything. And I said to Joel, you must be very careful, you must always have the safety catch on.
And Joel did. Until one day, a few months after he'd received it, Joel was getting ready to go to his dad's house and needed to give his father a ring.
Picked up my phone, I had the thing strapped around my wrist. As I pulled up, I don't know how I did it because I had the safety catch on, but I think I must have nudged to the bottom of my hand and it sprang up into my eye.
And when I turned around, he was on the floor. And I just sort of said, oh, what are you doing down there? He went, come on, get up, stop being silly. And he was just really dazed and he had his hand up to his face, didn't know what was going on. And I said, oh, are you okay? He was just saying, my eye, my eye. And his eye was literally, it was spraying tears like a shower.
Joel's dad rushed him into hospital.
At sort of about 12 o'clock at night, Joel's dad phoned and said, he's got to have an emergency operation in the morning, it's really, really not good. We were warned that he would probably come out blind in that eye.
In fact, despite the safety catch being on, the mechanism had sprung without warning and sent the blade into Joel's eye. As eye consultant Richard Ancliffe explains.
He put the dagger through the clear window at the front of the eye that we call the cornea. I can show you on the model here. So he penetrated his eye through this clear window. These sort of injuries, or these type of injuries, are very unpredictable in that until you actually start doing an operation, you don't know exactly what you're going to find.
Luckily for Joel, the skill of the surgeon saved his sight.
Joel was extremely lucky in getting away with what he ended up with. He was millimetres away from having a much, much more serious problem.
Joel was left with 6 stitches in his eye. He began a process of months of operations and recuperation.
That was like the worst 3 months of my life because he was just in so much pain all the time and I couldn't help him.
Meanwhile, concerned at what had gone wrong with the product, Sarah sent it off to Wiltshire Trading Standards. Yvonne Bennett is the Consumer Protection Manager.
We purchased one of these items ourselves. We sent the item off to a test house because we were concerned about its safety. The analyst applied some tests to the product to find out the force that was needed to cause the blade to shoot out, the force that was needed on the safety lock, the force that was needed to depress the trigger, and he came to the conclusion that in both cases very little force was required. It was so easily done. At the bottom here there is a safety lock which is so flimsy that even by brushing it against your clothing that could move. This skull-like thing on top here is a trigger which if you just press it will cause the blade to shoot out.
And there's a reason it fails safety standards. Makers Ubisoft say they believe Joel's collectible Assassin's Creed blade is a fake. For Yvonne's trained eye, there are ways to spot it.
The information on the packaging is confusing. We have a warning here, choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years. We also have a symbol here, 0 to 3 years. But then we have another age, which is 17 plus. We also see here the words not a toy and not for use by children. The CE mark is a worry because what that means is that this item complies with the EC Directive on Toys for Children.